Senator Whitehouse, would you like to proceed?
I'd be delighted to. Thank you very much. And I want to, first of all, thank you, Senator Crapo, and our chairman for this hearing. And I want to thank Chairman Cantwell for her remarks and focus on fisheries. And I want to follow up on her questioning there. One of the things that we've been trying to do has been to get the U.S. military to share its information better with our efforts at enforcement against pirate fishing in the open oceans. Our first effort to get the Navy to do this was met with the response that we should go pound sand. It was not their job. So we came back, and in the following NDAA got the Coast Guard roped into it. And there is a lot of information that the Navy and the Coast Guard have access to about the travel of ships on the high seas. So as we're dealing with NOAA, with the Department of Labor, and with the Border Protection, Customs and Border Protection folks on this, there's also this overlay of military and security intelligence that we should have. I want to thank the Pew Trusts and Vulcan and other groups who have been really active in this space. Vulcan describes what it calls a devastating and corrupt criminal conspiracy at the heart of the seafood industry. And it's not just a question of forced labor, it's a question of actual slavery. And of course, if you're shipping stuff illegally around the globe, it's just as easy to put arms or human trafficking victims or other contraband in with the fish as well. So cleaning up this abuse of the high seas, I think, is a real priority. And I wanted to ask Ms. Vandenberg what you see happening with this, how we can work better together to combine all of these different assets and eliminate for once and for all this problem. A lot of things like vehicle monitoring systems are useful at providing data, but that presupposes that the fishing vessel is legitimate enough to install a vessel monitoring system and not corrupt enough to flip it off as soon as it gets out of the territorial waters of its home country. And it's really pretty gross stuff. I mean, you got people living in cages. You got stories of people who, when they got sick, were thrown overboard because it was too much of a pain to go and get them treatment on shore. It's a pretty brutal criminal conspiracy out there, and I'm glad that Chairman Cantwell brought attention to it, and I hope we'll keep that as a focus on this. It combines all the worst elements of forced labor, slavery, piracy, and international crime. Ms. Vandenberg, your reaction.
Senator Whitehouse, I could not agree with you more. If you look at the reporting, for example, that's done by Ian Urbina and the publication of his book, The Outlaw Ocean, we are talking about modern day slavery on the high seas in a way that is outside the reach of law unless countries choose to prosecute. And so murders that are committed against workers and fishermen on these ships that are unpunished and are committed with total impunity. I would just add one footnote to your comment on the U.S. Coast Guard. Several years ago, we learned that fishermen had been handing notes to Coast Guard officers boarding vessels. Those notes said, "Please help me." We are not certain at this point what the Coast Guard's protocol is when a fisherman on a boat cries out and asks for help because they're being held in forced labor. So I would ask that the Coast Guard's protocol be clear about what they do and how the U.S. government will intervene when it finds forced labor on a vessel.
Well, under the new NDAA provisions that we got put in, they are going to have to do more reporting on this, and we'll be sure to add that to the questions that we have in our scrutiny of all of this. The only thing I'd add, Mr. Chairman, is that while they're not an outright pirate fleet, the Chinese fishing fleet is behaving in extraordinarily aggressive ways, both as regards crewing, picking people off of other countries and taking their papers and putting them into effective servitude, and in return, also in terms of violating other countries' sovereignty, and even in the case of one incident in Indonesia, sending a Chinese military vessel into Indonesian waters to forcibly take back from Indonesian coastal authorities a Chinese pirate fishing vessel that it had seized and was going to sink, having seized it. So it was basically an act of war, but the Indonesians don't want to tangle with the Chinese on that level. But in my trips, particularly with Senator McCain, across the Pacific region, country after country after country raised concerns and complaints about the improper pressure of the Chinese fishing fleet against their sovereignty. So I think it's an area where we can make some real friends in the region if we're seen as being active supporters. And I flag that for my colleagues, and thank you for recognizing me.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. And those